Li Jiwan stood at the window of his small apartment in New Seoul, staring at the night sky. Somewhere beyond those stars, an alien fleet waited. The Vraxian Empire had arrived 3 months ago, and Earth had been holding its breath ever since. Every government, every military, every person on the planet wondered the same thing. Would they come in peace or would they come to conquer? Jiwan was just a mid-level diplomat. He worked at the United Earth Embassy, filing reports and attending boring meetings. He never expected to be important. He never wanted to be important. But that morning everything changed when Admiral Kim walked into his office with a message that made his blood run cold. "They asked for you specifically," the Admiral said, sliding a datapad across the desk. "The Vraxian Empress wants to meet you. Only you." Jiwan read the message 3 times. His hands shook. "Why me? I'm nobody. I've never even handled first contact protocols. We don't know, but you leave in 6 hours." Now Jiwan sat in a Vraxian shuttle rising through Earth's atmosphere. Next to him, Park Mina reviewed files on her tablet. Mina was his assistant, but she was smarter than him and they both knew it. She had volunteered to come along, though Jiwan had tried to talk her out of it. "Listen to this," Mina said, her voice tight with worry. "The Vraxians have conquered 847 star systems. Every single species they've met either surrendered immediately or was destroyed. They've never lost a battle, not once in 12,000 years." Jiwan closed his eyes. "That's encouraging. There's more. They live for thousands of years, maybe forever. They're stronger than us, smarter than us, and they have technology we can't even understand." Mina looked at him with fear in her eyes. "Jiwan, what if we're next?" The shuttle docked with the flagship near Jupiter. Jiwan had seen pictures, but nothing prepared him for the reality. The ship was the size of a small moon, dark metal that seemed to absorb light. Guards met them at the airlock, tall figures in armor that made them look like walking tanks. "Li Jiwan," one guard said. The translator device made the voice sound flat and mechanical. "Come with us. The Empress is waiting. What about Mina?" "Only you." Mina squeezed his arm. "Good luck." They led Jiwan through corridors that went on forever. Everything was massive, built for beings much larger than humans. The walls were smooth and dark, decorated with strange symbols. After walking for what felt like an hour, they reached enormous doors covered in carvings. The guards pushed them open. The throne room made Jiwan feel like an insect. The ceiling disappeared into shadows high above. The walls displayed holographic images of conquered worlds, hundreds of them, maybe thousands. In the center of the room, on a throne made of some black crystal, sat Empress Kalis. She was 3 meters tall, towering over Jiwan even while sitting. Her skin looked like living crystal, shifting between deep purple and blue. Her eyes were completely black, reflecting nothing. She wore robes that seemed to flow like liquid metal. She was beautiful and terrifying at the same time. Jiwan bowed deeply, the way they had taught him in the emergency protocol briefing. His heart hammered against his ribs. "Li Jiwan of Earth," Kalis said. Her voice was deep and rich, filling the entire room. "Do you know why I summoned you?" "No, Your Majesty." "Look at me." Jiwan raised his head. Those black eyes studied him like he was a specimen under a microscope. "I have been watching your species for 3 years," Kalis said. "I have observed your cities, your wars, your celebrations. I have studied your art, your literature, your music, and I have discovered something that troubles me deeply." Here it comes, Jiwan thought. She's going to tell us we're weak, that we're primitive, that we need to submit or die. "You are dying," Kalis continued. "Your lives last barely a century. You are fragile. Disease can kill you. Accidents can kill you. Time itself kills you. You know you will die, and yet—" She stood up, walking down from her throne. Each step echoed through the chamber. She stopped in front of Jiwan, so close he could see his reflection in her crystalline skin. "And yet you laugh," she said softly. "You create beauty that serves no purpose. You write stories. You make music. You fall in love. You have hope." Her voice changed, becoming almost desperate. "Why?" Jiwan blinked. This was not what he expected. I don't understand the question, Your Majesty." Kalis turned away, her robe swirling around her. "My people have conquered the galaxy. We are immortal. We are powerful. We have eliminated weakness, disease, and inefficiency from our genetics. We are perfect," she looked back at him, "and we are dying inside." The Empress walked to a window showing the stars beyond. Our suicide rate has increased by 300% in the last century. More and more of my people simply give up. They live for 1,000 years, accomplish great things, and then decide existence is meaningless. They end themselves. Her reflection in the window looked haunted. I have ruled for 4,000 years, Li Jiwan. I have seen empires fall and stars die. And for the last century I have felt nothing. Nothing but emptiness. Jiwan didn't know what to say. This was the ruler of the most powerful empire in the galaxy, and she sounded lost. We removed emotions 8,000 years ago, Kalis said. They were inefficient. They caused conflict and poor decisions. We engineered them out of our species. We kept only what was necessary: ambition, curiosity, duty. We thought we were evolving. She laughed, but it was a bitter sound. We were wrong. She turned to face him again. I have watched your people closely. I have seen soldiers cry over fallen comrades. I have seen parents sacrifice everything for their children. I have seen artists create beauty they will never profit from. I have seen your people laugh in the face of death itself. Her voice grew intense. Your species has something we lost. Something we need. What do you want from us? Jiwan asked quietly. Kalis moved closer and Jiwan had to resist the urge to step back. I want you to teach my people how to live. Not just exist, live, feel, dream, hope, love. She paused. I want you to give us back our souls. Jiwan stared at her. Of all the things he had imagined, demands for surrender, threats of invasion, requests for resources, this had never crossed his mind. The most powerful being in the galaxy was asking humanity for help. I don't know if that's possible, he said honestly. Neither do I, Kalis replied. But we must try. My empire has conquered 847 worlds, but we are hollow victories. We have everything and nothing at the same time. She extended her hand toward him. Will you help us? Jiwan looked at that offered hand. This was insane. This was impossible. But as he looked into those black eyes, he saw something he recognized. He saw the same look he'd seen in his own mirror on bad days. Loneliness, emptiness, a hunger for meaning. He took her hand. Her skin felt like smooth stone, warm and solid. I'll try, he said. But I have conditions. For the first time, Kalis smiled. It was an awkward expression, like she was remembering how. Name them. No military action against Earth, full cultural exchange. And I need access to your people, all levels of your society. Agreed. Jiwan took a deep breath. He had no idea how to teach aliens to feel. He had no idea if it was even possible. But he had just shaken hands with destiny and there was no turning back now. Then let's begin, he said. Jiwan returned to the human quarters on the flagship feeling like he'd been hit by a truck. Mina was waiting for him, along with two people he'd never met before. The woman looked calm and professional in a gray suit. The man wore casual clothes and had the distracted look of someone always thinking about three things at once. This is Dr. Choi Heron, Mina said, introducing the woman. She's a psychologist. And this is Kim Taijin, our best linguist and cultural analyst. Earth sent them up after your meeting request came through. Nice to meet you, Jiwan said, shaking their hands. Though I wish it was under better circumstances. Heron smiled slightly. Mina told us about the Empress's request. It's fascinating. And terrifying. Mostly terrifying, Jiwan agreed. He sat down heavily on a chair. She wants us to teach her people to feel emotions. How do you even begin to do that? Taijin leaned forward, eyes bright with interest. First, we need to understand what we're dealing with. What exactly did they do to themselves? Jiwan pulled up the files Kalis had given him. The team spent the next 3 hours reading, and with each page their expressions grew more troubled. The Vraxians had systematically removed emotional capacity from their genetic code. They kept only the bare minimum needed for survival. Basic satisfaction from achievement, mild curiosity, a sense of duty. Everything else was gone. Love, joy, sadness, fear, anger, all deleted like unwanted files from a computer. This is horrible, Heron said quietly. They turned themselves into machines made of flesh. They thought they were improving themselves, Jiwan said, getting rid of weakness. But emotions aren't weakness, Heron replied. They're how we process the world, how we connect to each other, how we find meaning. She looked at the data again. Without them, life would be just going through motions. That's exactly what Kalis said, Jiwan told them. She said her people are dying inside. Taijin rubbed his face. Okay, so how do we fix this? You can't just flip a switch and make someone feel again. Maybe we start simple, Mina suggested. Show them what emotions look like. What they do. Like what? Jiwon asked. Art, music, movies, stories. Mina was getting excited now. Things that make us feel. Maybe if they see emotional responses, they'll start to understand. Hiren looked doubtful. You can't learn to feel by watching others feel. That's like trying to learn to swim by reading about it. But we have to start somewhere, Jiwon said. He stood up and started pacing. Callis said young Vraxians have been secretly watching human broadcasts. That means something about our culture interests them. Wait, really? Taejin pulled up his tablet. I need to know what they've been watching. That could tell us a lot. It took 2 days to get the information. When it came through, Taejin started laughing. You're not going to believe this. The most popular human show among young Vraxians is a Korean drama called Tomorrow's Love. It's a romance series. A romance? Jiwon said. But they don't have romantic feelings. That's probably why they're fascinated, Hiren said. It's completely alien to them. Like we'd watch a documentary about life forms that communicate through colors. Jiwon made a decision. All right. Let's try an experiment. We'll show them human movies and see how they react. Callis agreed to give us access to Vraxian volunteers. The next week, they set up a small theater on the flagship. 50 Vraxians came to watch what Jiwon had selected, a collection of films designed to show different emotions. Comedies, tragedies, romances, adventures. They started with a classic comedy film that always made Jiwon laugh until his sides hurt. The Vraxians watched in complete silence. No laughter. No smiles. Nothing. When the movie ended, they looked at each other in confusion. One Vraxian stood up. I do not understand. The characters kept making errors in judgment. Why is this considered entertaining? Jiwon felt his heart sink. It's funny. The mistakes are exaggerated to make us laugh. But why would errors cause this laugh response? Another Vraxian asked. Errors should be corrected, not celebrated. It's about the surprise, Mina tried to explain. The unexpected twist. The Vraxians looked even more confused. The experiment was a disaster. They tried 3 more films that day with the same result. The Vraxians analyzed everything intellectually but felt nothing. By the end, Jiwon wanted to put his head through a wall. As the Vraxians filed out, one stayed behind. He was tall like all Vraxians with silver-tinted crystalline skin. He approached Jiwon hesitantly. I am Velrith, he said. I am a scholar. I study alien species and cultures. Nice to meet you, Jiwon said tiredly. Sorry the films didn't work. Actually, I wanted to ask you something. Velrith sat down, which was unusual. Most Vraxians never sat casually. In the final film, the human female was crying because the human male died. She said she loved him. What is this love? Jiwon blinked. At least one Vraxian was asking questions. Love is... It's a strong emotional bond. When you care about someone more than yourself. Why would you care about someone more than yourself? That is illogical. Because they make you happy. Because being with them gives your life meaning. Velrith tilted his head, the way dogs do when confused. And this crying, the leaking of eye fluid, this happens when you lose someone you love? Yes, it's called grief. It hurts, but it's also how we honor people we care about. So you experience pain when loved ones die, yet you form these bonds anyway. Velrith looked genuinely puzzled. Knowing it will hurt? Yes. That seems inefficient. Jiwon laughed, but it was a sad sound. Maybe it is. But it's also what makes life worth living. Velrith stood up to leave, then paused. You laughed just now, but your face looks sad. I do not understand this contradiction. It's complicated, Jiwon said. After Velrith left, the team gathered in their quarters. Everyone looked depressed. This isn't going to work, Taejin said. They analyze everything. They can't just feel. He's right, Hiren agreed. You can't teach emotions through observation. Emotions need context, experience, connection. Then what do we do? Mina asked. Jiwon thought about Velrith's questions. The curiosity in his voice. The way he stayed behind to ask more. We were doing this backwards, he said slowly. We were trying to show them emotions like there's some kind of data to learn. What do you mean? Hiren asked. Emotions aren't learned intellectually. They're experienced through relationships, through living. Jiwon stood up, energy returning. We need to propose something more radical. How radical? Mina asked nervously. We bring humans to live among the Vraxians, not as teachers but as neighbors, friends, colleagues. We share life with them. Jiwon pulled up a proposal document on his tablet. Cultural immersion, total integration, humans and Vraxians living together for 6 months. That's insane, Taijin said. And also brilliant. Callis said I could have access to all levels of their society, Jiwon said. Let's use it. Bring 100 humans. Pair each one with a Vraxian host. They'll eat together, work together, spend time together. Not learning about emotions, just living. Hiren nodded slowly. Emotions develop through shared experience, through relationships. If we can build real connections, maybe some of what we feel will transfer to them. Or maybe they'll just be annoyed by us for 6 months, Mina said. This could go very wrong. Everything about this situation could go very wrong, Jiwon replied. But Velrith stayed behind to ask questions. That means something. There's curiosity there, maybe even the beginning of something more. They sent the proposal to Empress Callis that night. Her response came back in less than an hour. Approved. Bring your humans to Nexus Prime. We will prepare host families. You have permission to try anything except direct genetic modification. If you can wake up my people, I do not care how strange your methods are. Begin immediately! Jiwon looked at his team. They all looked scared and excited at the same time. Well, he said, I guess we're really doing this. We're going to change history, Hiren said softly. One way or another, they started selecting volunteers the next day. Word spread quickly. Earth was looking for people willing to live among aliens for 6 months. The response was overwhelming. Scientists, artists, teachers, engineers, chefs, musicians, everyone wanted to be part of this. Within a week, they had their 100 volunteers. As the transport ships prepared to take them to the Vraxian homeworld, Jiwon couldn't sleep. He kept thinking about Callis's desperate eyes, about Velrith's curious questions, about an entire civilization that had forgotten how to feel. Could they really do this? Could humans teach aliens to love, laugh, and cry? He didn't know, but tomorrow they would find out. The transport ship descended through the purple atmosphere of Nexus Prime, and Jiwon pressed his face against the window like a child. The Vraxian capital city stretched as far as he could see, massive towers of dark crystal and metal, perfectly arranged in geometric patterns. No parks, no colors, no variation. Everything looked efficient and cold. It's like a machine built a city, Mina said from the seat next to him. She sounded nervous. They all were. The 100 human volunteers filled the transport, talking in low voices. Some looked excited, others terrified. They had all passed psychological evaluations and attended emergency cultural training. But nothing could really prepare them for this. They were about to live among aliens who didn't understand laughter, friendship, or love. The transport landed on a massive platform. Vraxian officials waited for them, tall and imposing in their formal robes. Jiwon led the group down the ramp, his legs shaky. Velrith stood at the front of the welcoming party, and his crystalline face seemed to brighten when he saw Jiwon. Welcome to Nexus Prime, Velrith said. I have been assigned as your host. Really? Jiwon felt relieved. At least he'd be staying with someone he'd already met. Yes, I requested it. You interest me. Velrith looked at the crowd of humans. You all interest me. The pairing process took hours. Each human was matched with a Vraxian host based on similar work or interests. Jiwon watched as his volunteers dispersed into the city with their hosts, some looking back nervously. Mina had been paired with a military commander named Threx, a massive Vraxian whose crystalline skin was dark red. She gave Jiwon a look that clearly said, "Help me," before following Threx to his residence. Velrith's home was in one of the crystal towers. They took an elevator that moved so fast Jiwon's stomach dropped. The apartment was enormous, filled with screens displaying data and research notes. But it was completely impersonal. No pictures, no decorations, no personality. This is your room, Velrith said, gesturing to a space that was bigger than Jiwon's entire apartment back on Earth. I did not know what furnishings humans require, so I left it empty. Jiwon looked at the bare walls and floor. It's fine. Thank you. I do not understand thank you, Velrith said. I am fulfilling my obligation as assigned. It's an expression of gratitude, appreciation. Jiwon set down his bag. Humans say it when someone does something helpful. Velrith considered this. I will record that information. I've been studying human customs. There are many inefficiencies. Why do humans ask how someone is doing when they do not require medical information? It's polite. It shows you care about them. But you can care about someone without asking unnecessary questions. This was going to be harder than Jiwon thought. The first week was awkward beyond belief. Velrith had no concept of privacy. He would enter Jiwon's room without knocking, confused when Jiwon asked him to wait. He didn't understand why Jiwon wanted to eat at specific times rather than just consuming nutrients when energy was low. He analyzed everything Jiwon did like he was studying an alien insect. Meanwhile, reports came in from the other humans. It was the same everywhere. Culture clash on a massive scale. One human had tried to hug her Vraxian host, and the host had nearly filed an assault report. Another human played music, and the host complained about unnecessary audio pollution. A teacher tried to explain the concept of a birthday party, and the Vraxian asked why humans celebrated getting closer to death. In the second week, Jiwon decided to try something different. He went to the communal kitchen in Velrith's building, a sterile room full of food synthesizers, and started cooking. He'd brought ingredients from Earth carefully preserved. He made kimchi jjigae, the spicy stew his grandmother used to make. The smell filled the kitchen. Other Vraxians stopped and stared. Velrith came rushing in, his skin shifting to an alarmed orange color. "What are you doing? The air is contaminated with foreign particles." "I'm cooking. It's how humans prepare food. But the synthesizer is more efficient. It provides exact nutritional requirements." "This isn't about nutrition," Jiwon said, stirring the pot. "It's about memory, comfort, love." Velrith's skin returned to its normal silver. "Love is a food preparation technique?" Jiwon laughed. "No, but my grandmother made this for me when I was sick or sad. Every time I eat it, I remember her. She died 5 years ago, but when I smell this stew, I feel like she's still with me." Velrith sat down slowly. "You maintain connection to deceased individuals through food?" "Through memory. The food triggers the memory." Jiwon served 2 bowls. "Try it." Velrith analyzed the bowl carefully, then took a small taste. "It is too hot. It causes discomfort to consume. That's the point. It wakes you up." "Makes you feel alive. Feel alive," Velrith repeated. "I do not understand this phrase. I am functioning." "That is being alive." Jiwon set down his spoon. "Is it, though? Do you ever wake up excited about the day? Do you ever look at the stars and feel wonder? Do you ever miss someone so much it hurts?" "No," Velrith said. "Why would I want to feel hurt?" "Because it means you loved them. Because it means they mattered." Velrith ate more of the stew in silence. Finally, he said, "The taste is unusual. The synthesizer would never create this combination. It is inefficient, but do you like it?" "I do not know what like means in this context." They kept eating. It wasn't a breakthrough, but it was something. Around the city, other humans were making similar attempts. Taejin, the linguist, discovered a Vraxian engineer named Kiris, who was fascinated by human language. Taejin taught her about puns and wordplay. "Wait," Kyra said, her crystalline features showing confusion. "The phrase means both a greeting and the method of performing a task?" "Yes, how are you?" "Like how are you doing, but also how, the method." Kyra stared at him. Then for the first time, her skin shifted to a lighter color, almost white. "That is clever. Having one sound with multiple meanings. It is inefficient for communication, but it is clever." "Are you enjoying this?" Taejin asked carefully. "Enjoying," Kiris tested the word. "I think yes. I experienced satisfaction from understanding the pattern." It was a small thing, but Taejin reported back that evening excited. "She's feeling something. It's basic, but it's there." Dr. Hiran had set up music therapy sessions in a public hall. She played everything: classical, rock, traditional Korean folk songs, jazz. Most Vraxians walked past with no interest, but a few stopped. One Vraxian named Elina stayed for an entire session, listening to a melancholic human song. "Why does this sound pattern cause distress?" Elina asked. "The frequencies are objectively harmless." "It's sad," Hiran explained. "The song is about losing someone you love. The music makes us feel that sadness." "Why would anyone create something that causes sadness?" "Because sometimes we need to feel our pain. It helps us heal." Elina listened to the song 3 more times. On the 4th playing, liquid began leaking from her eyes. Tears, though she didn't know what they were. She touched her face, confused and alarmed. "What is happening to me?" Hiran's own eyes filled with tears. "You're crying. You're feeling something? Elena stood up quickly. This is wrong. I am malfunctioning. She fled the hall, but she came back the next day. And the day after that, Mina was having the hardest time. Commander Threx ran his life like a military operation. Wake up at exactly the same time. Consume nutrients. Complete tasks, sleep, repeat, no variation, no relaxation, no fun. This is horrible, she told G1 one night over video call. He schedules everything down to the minute. He doesn't understand why I want to just sit and do nothing sometimes. Try teaching him a game, G1 suggested. So Mina taught Threx to play cards. She explained poker, with its rules of betting and bluffing. So you attempt to deceive the other players about your hand strength? Threx said, his skin going dark with what might have been confusion or disapproval. Yes, that's part of the game. But deception is dishonorable. Not in a game. In a game, it's strategy. They played several hands. Threx was terrible at bluffing. His skin color changed every time he had a good hand. But Mina noticed he kept asking to play again. Finally, after losing another hand to Mina's bluff, Threx made a sound. A short burst of air that almost sounded like a laugh. You are frustratingly unpredictable, he said. I cannot calculate your strategy. That's what makes it fun. Fun, Threx repeated. I am experiencing what might be fun? Maybe. But not everything was going well. Reports came in of conflict. Some Vraxians were angry about the disruption to their routines. Some humans were frustrated by the emotional wall they kept hitting. One human volunteer quit and went home, saying it was like talking to robots. Then in the third week, something terrible happened. G1 was sleeping when alarms woke him. Velrith burst into his room, skin flashing red. Danger. There has been an attack. In the human quarter. G1's blood went cold. What kind of attack? Explosives. 3 humans are dead, 7 injured. The next hours were chaos. G1 rushed to the human quarter to find medical teams everywhere. Buildings were damaged. Smoke still drifted in the air. He found Mina helping coordinate the wounded. She had blood on her shirt. Who did this? G1 demanded. Vraxian extremists, Mina said, her voice shaking. They left a message. Leave before you corrupt us. Empress Callis arrived within the hour. Her skin was black with rage. I will find those responsible. They will be executed. Will that help? G1 asked, looking at the destruction. Or will it make things worse? Callis looked at him. My empire is fracturing. Half my people want what you are teaching. The other half sees you as a disease. She turned away. I do not know if this experiment can work. The cost may be too high. That night, G1 sat with Velrith in their apartment. Neither spoke for a long time. Finally, Velrith said, I have been recording my experiences. Do you want to know what I have learned? Sure. For 300 years, I have cataloged stars. I measured their properties, recorded their data. I was very efficient. Velrith looked at his hands. But yesterday I looked at the stars, and instead of thinking about their data, I thought about how far away they were, how ancient their light is, and I felt, he struggled for the word, small but also connected to something vast. That's called wonder, G1 said softly. Is this what you meant by feeling alive? Yes. Velrith's skin shifted through several colors before settling on pale blue. Then I understand why you do not want to leave. Even though we are dangerous. Even though some of us killed your people. He looked at G1. Because if we succeed, we become more than we were. Yes. Is that worth dying for? G1 thought about his grandmother making stew. About music that makes you cry. About Threx learning to laugh at a card game. About Elena's tears. About Velrith seeing wonder in the stars for the first time in 3 centuries. I think so, he said. I hope so. The attack changed everything. Security increased throughout the city. Armed Vraxian guards followed the humans everywhere. The easy movement between human and Vraxian spaces stopped. Fear replaced curiosity. G1 watched the news broadcast with growing dread. Vraxian political leaders were calling for the humans to be sent home. They showed statistics. Workplace productivity was down 12% since the humans arrived. Military units were reporting discipline problems. Young Vraxians were asking questions about purpose and meaning instead of focusing on their duties. We are becoming weak, one high-ranking official declared on the broadcast. These emotions they speak of are not strength. They are disease. We must remove this infection before it destroys us. Mina paced in G1's apartment, angry and scared. They're acting like we're the enemy. We didn't ask to come here. Their empress asked us to help. Fear makes people irrational, Hiron said quietly. She looked exhausted. Several of her music therapy students had stopped coming after the attack. They're scared of change. Taejian pulled up new data on his tablet. It's not all bad news. Look at this, there's a counter-movement among younger Vraxians. They're calling themselves the Awakened. They say they don't want to go back to the old way. That might make things worse, Jiwan said. Now it's not just about humans. It's becoming a civil conflict. The next day proved him right. The High Council summoned Empress Callus to a formal hearing. Jiwan watched the broadcast from the human quarter. The council chamber was enormous, filled with the oldest and most powerful Vraxians in the Empire. Callis stood alone in the center. Your Majesty, the council leader said, his skin almost black with anger. You have brought instability to our empire. Our people are confused, distracted, inefficient. The human experiment has failed. It has not failed, Callis replied. Her voice was steady, but Jiwan could see tension in her posture. It is working. That is what frightens you. Working. 3 Vraxians are dead from the suicide prevention centers you ordered closed because humans convinced you our people needed to feel their pain. Productivity is collapsing. And now we have Vraxian attacking Vraxian over whether we should feel emotions. Change is never smooth, Callis said, but it is necessary. Our suicide rate was rising before the humans came. We were dying in spirit long before they arrived. The council leader pointed at her. You have been compromised, infected by human irrationality. We propose a vote of no confidence. You are no longer fit to rule. The chamber erupted. Vraxians arguing with each other, something that never happened before. The broadcast cut out suddenly. Within hours, armed Vraxian soldiers surrounded the human quarter. No one was allowed in or out. Jiwan tried to reach Callis, but all his messages went unanswered. They were prisoners now. This is it, one of the human volunteers said at an emergency meeting. They're going to send us home or worse. Stay calm, Jiwan told them, trying to sound confident. Callis won't let anything happen to us. But he wasn't sure that was true anymore. The Vraxians were on the edge of civil war, and it was humanity's fault. That night, Velrith came to the apartment. He was breaking security protocols by being there, but he looked desperate. I needed to see you, he said. Things are bad, I know. I've been watching. Velrith sat down heavily. The council is meeting tonight to vote on removing Callis from power. If they succeed, the new leadership will send all humans home, and they will make it illegal for Vraxians to pursue emotional development. Can they do that? They can try, but it may be too late. Velrith looked at his hands. I spent 300 years cataloging stars, measuring, recording, being efficient. I was proud of my work. His skin shifted to a sad blue color. Now when I look at those records, all I see is emptiness. 300 years of data and no meaning, no joy. No wonder except for that one moment I told you about. Velrith, I do not want to go back, Velrith said. And there was something desperate in his voice. I do not want to stop feeling. These past weeks have been confusing and difficult and sometimes painful. But they have been alive in a way I never was before. He looked at Jiwan. Thousands of young Vraxians feel this way. We have tasted something real and we cannot go back to being empty. What will you do? I do not know. But we will not give this up without a fight. Velrith left before security could catch him. Jiwan sat in the dark thinking. They had started something that couldn't be stopped. The question was whether it would end in awakening or destruction. The next morning, Callis herself came to the human quarter. She looked different, older somehow, though Vraxians didn't age. Tired. Her skin was a dull gray. She asked to speak with Jiwan privately. They went to a small room away from the others. I owe you an apology, Callis said. I brought you here believing I could control the outcome. I was wrong. What's going to happen? The council will vote tonight. I will likely lose. She met his eyes. But that is not why I came. I came to tell you the truth. The real truth about why I summoned you. Jiwan waited. 4,000 years ago, Callis said, her voice distant, I fell in love, before we removed emotions from our genetics. His name was Theron, and he was a poet. He wrote about stars and dreams and the beauty of temporary things. We were going to be bonded. Married, you would say. She paused. But he was part of the movement that wanted to eliminate emotions. He said love made us weak. He volunteered to be among the first to undergo the genetic modification. What happened? After the procedure, he did not know me. Not as someone he loved, only as a colleague. He explained logically that our planned bonding made no sense. It was based on irrational attachment. Kaelus's skin darkened. I wanted to die. But instead I became Empress. I ruled efficiently, conquered worlds, built an empire. For 4,000 years I have been empty, and for 4,000 years I have remembered what it felt like to be alive. Why are you telling me this? Because a month ago I did something I should have done millennia ago. I secretly underwent genetic therapy to restore my emotional capacity. Human scientists helped me using research from your medical databases. She looked at him with eyes that suddenly seemed very human. I wanted to know if I was right. If what we gave up was worth fighting for. Ji-won stared at her. You can feel again. Yes, and it is agony. Tears ran down Kaelus's face. The first tears she'd cried in 4,000 years. I remember Theron. I grieve for him as if he died yesterday. I feel the weight of every conquest, every death I ordered. I feel guilt and regret and sorrow. She smiled through her tears. And I also feel hope, wonder, joy at small things. Yesterday I heard music and it made me cry. Not from sadness, from beauty. Why didn't you tell anyone? Because I needed to be sure. And now I am. Kaelus stood up. Tonight, when the council votes, I am going to offer all Vraxians a choice. Voluntary genetic therapy to restore emotional capacity. Not mandatory, choice. Those who want to stay as they are may do so. But those who want to feel, who want to be alive, they will have that option. The council will never agree to that. I know. That is why I am not asking their permission. I am going directly to my people. She looked at Ji-won with fierce determination. You asked me once if survival without meaning is truly survival. I have my answer, it is not, and I will not let my people remain as ghosts any longer. This could start a civil war. I know, but some things are worth fighting for. She placed a hand on his shoulder. Thank you, Lee Ji-won. Thank you for reminding me what it means to be alive. She left. Ji-won stood there shaking. Everything was about to change. That evening, every screen in the Vraxian Empire showed the same image. Empress Kaelus standing alone in the throne room. She looked directly into the camera and spoke. My people, for 4,000 years I have ruled you. I have led us to victory after victory. I have made us the most powerful civilization in the galaxy. And I have watched as more and more of you chose death over existence. She paused. I understand why. I too have felt the emptiness. The meaninglessness of endless existence without purpose, without feeling, without connection. The council leader's face appeared in a split screen, furious. You are unfit. Silence, Kaelus commanded, and her voice carried the weight of 4 millennia of rule. My people deserve to hear this. She looked back at the camera. 8,000 years ago, our ancestors made a choice. They removed our capacity for emotion, believing it would make us stronger. They were wrong. We did not become stronger. We became hollow. She gestured, and the screen behind her showed images of humans laughing, crying, embracing. These humans who have lived among us, they are weak by our standards. They die in a century. They can be hurt by simple diseases, and yet they have something we lost. They are alive. They feel joy and sorrow, love and loss. They create beauty for no logical reason, and despite their weakness, they have achieved remarkable things. More images appeared, human art, human music, human achievements. They do not conquer because they are strong. They persist because they have meaning, because they love, because they hope, because they dream. Kaelus's skin shifted through colors, blue, purple, orange, reflecting emotions she had kept hidden. I have undergone genetic therapy to restore my emotional capacity. For the first time in 4,000 years I can feel, and I am here to tell you it is worth it. The pain, the confusion, the difficulty, all of it is worth it to be truly alive. The council leader was shouting now, but Kaelus ignored him. I am announcing the great opening. Any Vraxian who wishes may voluntarily undergo genetic therapy to restore emotional capacity. It is not mandatory. Those who wish to remain as they are may do so. But those who want to feel, to live, to find meaning, that choice is now yours. The broadcast ended. For a moment there was silence across the empire. Then everything erupted into chaos. Ji-won watched as crowds gathered in the streets outside. Some were angry, some were excited. Security forces didn't know what to do. The old order was collapsing, and nobody knew what would rise to replace it. Velrith burst into the apartment, his skin bright white with joy. "Did you see? Did you hear? We have a choice now." "This could get very bad," Jiwan warned. "I know," Velrith said. "But it could also get very good. For the first time in 8,000 years, we get to decide who we want to be." Outside, the crowds grew larger. The future was uncertain, dangerous, and terrifying. But it was also, for the first time in a very long time, full of possibility. The medical facility was filled with Vraxians waiting for their turn. Jiwan stood with Dr. Heron and watched through the observation window as Empress Callis underwent the final stage of her emotional restoration therapy. Human doctors worked alongside Vraxian geneticists, carefully monitoring every change. "Her neural pathways are restructuring," one of the doctors said, studying the holographic display. "Emotional centers are activating. This is remarkable." Callis opened her eyes. For a moment she just lay there, breathing. Then she looked around the room and her face did something Jiwan had never seen a Vraxian do. She smiled. Really smiled, not the awkward mimicry from before. Her eyes filled with tears and she started to laugh. "Your Majesty?" the doctor asked, concerned. "Are you in pain?" "No," Callis said, laughing and crying at the same time. "No, I'm not in pain. I'm just—" She looked at her hands, then at the ceiling, then at the doctors around her. I can actually feel." She sat up slowly. "Everything is so bright, so vivid. Is this how humans experience the world all the time?" "Yes," Hyaron said gently. "Welcome back." Callis stood on shaky legs. She walked to the window and looked out at the city. "I have ruled this empire for 4,000 years, she said quietly. "I thought I understood it. But I was wrong. I have been asleep all this time." Tears ran down her face. "All those years. All that time wasted being empty." "You're not empty anymore," Jiwan said. Callis turned to him and suddenly pulled him into an embrace. It was awkward, she didn't quite know how to hug, but it was real. "Thank you," she whispered. "Thank you for giving me back my soul." Outside, the city was transforming. In the first week after Callis's announcement, 10,000 Vraxians volunteered for the therapy. By the second week, that number had grown to 1,000,000. Young Vraxians lined up for hours, eager to experience what they'd been missing. Older Vraxians were more hesitant, but curiosity drove many of them to at least consider it. Velrith underwent the procedure on the third day. Jiwan waited with him in the recovery room. When Velrith woke up, his skin went through every color imaginable. Shock, confusion, joy, fear all at once. "I can feel my heart beating," Velrith said, pressing his hand to his chest. "I've had a heart for 300 years and I never really felt it before." He looked at Jiwan and his eyes filled with tears. "I'm crying. Why am I crying? Because you're happy. Or maybe scared. Maybe both." "Both," Velrith agreed. "Definitely both." He stood up and looked out the window at the city. "I've lived here my entire life and I never really saw it. It's beautiful. Cold and efficient, yes, but there's beauty in that too." He turned back to Jiwan. "Is everything always this intense? You'll learn to manage it. It gets easier." "I do not want it to get easier," Velrith said. "I want to feel everything." But not everyone was happy about the changes. A conservative faction of Vraxians led by General Xerix refused the therapy. They saw the emotional Vraxians as weak and corrupted. They gathered support among the older generation and some military units. "This is the end of our empire," Xerix declared in a broadcast. "We have spent 12,000 years becoming the strongest civilization in the galaxy. Now we are throwing it away to become like the humans, weak, irrational, emotional." His skin turned dark red with anger. "I will not allow it. Tension built for weeks." The city was divided. Whole districts of emotional Vraxians on one side, holdouts who refused the therapy on the other. Security forces didn't know which side they were on. Some units underwent therapy together. Others refused entirely. Then Xerix made his move. He took control of the military command center with loyal troops. He broadcast a message declaring that Callis was no longer fit to rule, and that he was assuming command to protect the Empire from destruction. Jiwan and the humans were ordered to evacuate immediately. "This is a Vraxian matter now," a military officer told them. "You must leave before violence begins," but they didn't leave. Instead, Jiwan went with Mina, Tajin, and Hyaron to the Imperial Palace, where Callis had barricaded herself with loyal guards. The palace was surrounded by Xerix's forces. but they hadn't attacked yet. Kalis stood in the throne room looking out at the army arrayed against her. She turned when Jiwan entered. "You should not be here," she said. "This is dangerous." "We're not leaving," Jiwan replied. "This started because of us. We'll see it through." Kalis smiled sadly. "You are either very brave or very foolish. Probably both." Outside, Zarex's voice boomed through speakers. "Empress Kalis, surrender peacefully and I will spare your life. You will be allowed to live out your days in exile. Refuse and I will take the palace by force." Kalis walked to the balcony where everyone could see her. Jiwan followed. The plaza below was filled with thousands of Vraxians, both sides separated by a line of armed soldiers. The city held its breath. "General Zarex," Kalis called out, "I will not surrender. But I will speak with you, face to face. No weapons, no guards, just two Vraxians talking." There was silence. Then Zarex emerged from the crowd. He was massive, his dark gray skin showing his age, over 600 years old. He walked to the center of the plaza alone. Kalis descended from the balcony to meet him. Jiwan watched from above as the two most powerful Vraxians in the Empire faced each other. Security cameras broadcast the confrontation to every screen in the city. "You were a great leader once," Zarex said. "You made us strong. Why are you destroying everything we built?" "I am not destroying it," Kalis replied. "I am saving it. General, you have served for 600 years. You have conquered more worlds than any military leader in our history. Tell me honestly, has it brought you joy? Joy is irrelevant. I have honor, duty, purpose. Do you? Or do you have routine? Obligation? Empty achievement?" Kalis stepped closer. "When was the last time you looked forward to tomorrow? When did you last feel proud of your accomplishments? When did you last care about anything beyond fulfilling your function?" Zarex's skin flickered, confusion, maybe doubt. I serve the Empire. Yes, and you are very good at it. But does it mean anything to you?" Kalis's voice softened. 600 years, General. 600 years of victory and you have never celebrated. Never felt satisfaction deeper than base function. You are a legend and you have never been happy. Happiness is weakness, is it? Or is refusing to feel the actual weakness? Kalis touched her chest. "I have had my emotional capacity restored. And yes, I feel pain. I grieve for the time I lost. I feel guilt for the things I have done. But I also feel wonder, hope, joy. For the first time in 4,000 years, I look forward to tomorrow." Zarex was silent. His skin kept changing colors rapidly, a sign of internal conflict. "You are afraid?" Kalis said gently. "I understand. I was afraid too. Afraid of feeling. Afraid of discovering that my entire existence had been empty. Afraid that I had wasted thousands of years." "I am not afraid," Zarex said, but his voice was uncertain. "It is not too late for you. It is never too late." Kalis held out her hand. "Take the therapy. See what you have been missing. Then if you still believe I am wrong, I will step down peacefully." Zarex stared at her hand. The entire city watched. Security forces, citizens, humans, everyone held their breath. "If I do this," Zarex said slowly, "and I discover you are right, that I have wasted 600 years being empty." His skin went almost black. "How do I live with that?" "The same way I do," Kalis said. "By making sure the future is better than the past." Zarex looked at his army. At the Empire, he had served his entire life. Then he looked back at Kalis. Slowly, hesitantly, he reached out and took her hand. "I am terrified," he admitted. "I know," Kalis said. "That's a start." The medical team worked on Zarex through the night. Jiwan waited with Kalis and thousands of others. When Zarex finally emerged from the medical facility, he looked different. Smaller somehow, less rigid. He looked at his hands, at the sky, at the crowd. Then he looked at Kalis. "I am sorry," he said, and his voice broke. "I am so sorry. I have spent 600 years serving the Empire, and I never once stopped to ask why. I conquered worlds and felt nothing. I led armies and felt nothing. I watched comrades die and felt nothing." Tears ran down his face, the first tears in 6 centuries. "What have I done with my life?" Kalis embraced him and Zarex sobbed against her shoulder. The general, who had never known fear, never known doubt, was crying like a child. The assembled Vraxians watched in stunned silence. Then, one by one, they began to come forward. Vraxians who had refused the therapy, who had been afraid, who had been holding back. They formed a line outside the medical facility. The great opening had truly begun. Over the following months, the Vraxian Empire transformed. Millions underwent emotional restoration therapy. The changes were profound and sometimes painful. Newly emotional Vraxians struggled with feelings they had no framework for understanding. Some experienced depression, anxiety, overwhelming joy, or paralyzing fear, but they had humans to help guide them, and they had each other. The city itself began to change. Colors appeared on buildings, Vraxians discovering they liked beauty. Parks were created where none had existed before. Music could be heard in the streets. Art galleries opened. The rigid, efficient city was becoming alive. Velrith started writing. He published the first Vraxian novel in 8,000 years, a love story about two scholars who discover each other while learning to feel. It became wildly popular among newly emotional Vraxians trying to understand their own experiences. Commander Threx, the military officer whom Mina had taught to play cards, left the military entirely. He became a chef. "I spent 400 years training for war," he told Jiwon one day while preparing a meal. "Now I train to create pleasure, to make people happy with food. This is a better purpose." Elena, the Vraxian who had first cried while listening to music, became a composer. Her first symphony was called Awakening, and it made audiences weep. She described it as an attempt to capture the moment when emptiness becomes feeling. Kairos, the engineer who learned about puns from Taijin, started incorporating artistic elements into her designs. "Function is important," she said, "but beauty matters too. Why should we not have both?" Not everything was easy. Some Vraxians couldn't handle the intensity of emotions and chose to have the therapy reversed. A few suffered mental health crises. There were accidents. Vraxians making poor decisions based on feelings they didn't understand yet. But slowly, with help from human psychologists and each other, they learned to navigate their new emotional landscape. The empire itself changed. Conquest stopped. Newly emotional Vraxians had no desire to subjugate other species. Instead, they reached out to previously conquered worlds, offering reparations and genuine alliance. Military forces downsized dramatically. Resources were redirected to art, education, exploration, and helping other species develop. "We have a chance to remake ourselves," Callus announced in a public address, "not as conquerors but as friends to the galaxy. We have power, knowledge, and technology. Now we also have compassion. Let us use all of it to build something better." 6 months after the first therapy session, Jiwon stood on a balcony overlooking the transformed city. The sun was setting, painting the sky in colors that reminded him of Earth. Below, Vraxians walked through parks, laughed in cafes, held hands with partners they'd only recently learned to love. Callus joined him. "Thank you for staying," she said, "for seeing this through." "I wouldn't have missed it," Jiwon replied. "Many of the human volunteers are requesting to stay permanently, and many Vraxians want to visit Earth. I think this cultural exchange is just beginning." "What about you? What will you do now?" Callus smiled. "I have ruled for 4,000 years. I think it is time for someone else to lead. Someone who has always known feelings, not just recently remembered them." She looked at him. "I plan to study, learn, experience all the things I missed. Maybe fall in love again. Is that silly?" "No," Jiwon said. "That's wonderful. The council asked me to remain as an advisor. They want wisdom from someone who has known both emptiness and fullness." She laughed softly. "I agreed, but on my own terms. I want time to simply be alive." Velrith approached them, accompanied by a female Vraxian Jiwon didn't recognize. Both looked nervous and happy. "Jiwon," Velrith said. "This is Lyra. We have formed a romantic bond." "Is that the correct term?" "We're dating," Lyra said shyly. "We met at a writing workshop." Jiwon grinned. "That's great. I'm happy for you both." "We wanted to thank you," Lyra said. 3 months ago, I was an accountant who processed resources for 8 hours, and then went into suspension sleep. Now I write poetry and feel the sun on my skin and look forward to seeing Velrith every day. You gave us this. You gave yourselves this, Jiwon said. You had the courage to change. As night fell, the city lit up. Not the cold white lights of before, but warm colors, yellow, orange, purple, blue. Music drifted up from the streets below. Laughter echoed through the plaza. Somewhere someone was crying. Somewhere else a couple was falling in love. Mina found Jiwon on the balcony. Earth wants to know when you're coming home. What did you tell them? That you're probably staying for a while, she smiled. They're okay with that. Someone needs to be the ambassador to the new Vraxian Empire. What about you? I've been offered a position teaching cultural exchange studies at the Vraxian University. I think I'll accept. She looked out at the city. We're making history here. Real history. The kind that matters. Below in the plaza, a Vraxian child, one of the firstborn to emotional parents, was laughing while playing with other children. The sound of children's laughter in a Vraxian city was something no one had heard in 8,000 years. Callus watched the children with tears in her eyes. When Zarix asked me if we would be okay, I did not know the answer. I was terrified. But now, she looked at Jiwan. Now I think we will be more than okay. We will struggle. We will make mistakes. We will experience pain and loss. But we will also experience joy and wonder and love. We will be alive. Yes, Jiwan agreed. You will. The stars came out above the city. Once they had been symbols of conquest, worlds to be taken, resources to be cataloged, empty achievement. Now they were symbols of possibility, of hope, of a future where two civilizations, once on the brink of conflict, had instead saved each other. The Vraxians had gained their souls. Humanity had gained allies who finally understood what made them special. And the galaxy was forever changed, not through conquest but through connection. In the plaza below, someone started singing, a Vraxian learning human songs. Others joined in, voices uncertain but earnest. The melody drifted up to the balcony, a symbol of everything that had changed. Jiwan smiled. This was what he had come here to do. Not to teach, but to share. Not to change the Vraxians, but to help them remember who they had always been capable of becoming. The future was uncertain, full of challenges and difficulties. But it was also full of hope, meaning, and love. And that, Jiwan thought, was worth everything. In the distance, a new dawn was coming. And for the first time in 8,000 years, an entire civilization was waking up to greet it.